Welcome to the first section of the Clarity Board. This is the main operating place where you're going to be launching, tracking, and actually doing your work. This is the weekly rolling calendar. All right, and so it's totally flexible. You can choose which days, how many days you want to put, how many hours, which hours you want to include. For me, it's 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. From Monday to Friday. But you can add days, you can add hours, you can totally customize this to your needs. And every slot here, as you can see, there's a grid. You have long rectangle. That's a 1 hour slot, okay, of your day. And then in between each day, there's a box, and that box will be useful for labeling icons that we have as part of the kit. You can put those there just to visually see what type of work. If you need to flag something, we'll get into how that works as well. But this, for example, this is 1 hour of desk work. Because it's green, that's my color for desk work. So I will put this in my calendar like this. And if something comes up and I need to change, I need to rearrange my schedule, it's very easy to do. If I don't find time, somebody calls me and I have an urgent assignment, I need to do it now, then I'll take my 1 hour planned desk work and I'll put it maybe outside of my calendar below, so I know that I need to be doing this at some point. I need to find a home on my calendar for that assignment. It doesn't just go away. I don't just click it and forget about it. It's here and it will be there until I actually do it or find time on my calendar. So that's the main advantage of this system. And we'll get into now what are the steps to setting this up. So step number 1 is look at your schedule, whether it's Google Calendar or your work calendar, whatever calendar system you use for your coming week, and look for any assignments, any meetings, any Zoom calls, anything that's already scheduled. In this case, we'll do an example. Let's say these are phone calls, right? So I've got some meetings today. I've got some meetings tomorrow. I'm obviously going to be labeling these. I'll fill out the places in my calendar in the coming week where I know I can't just do anything. I have assignments. Those hours are already taken. Okay, so I've added my Zoom calls, my phone calls, and my meetings. You can see blue are my meetings. All my phone calls and Zoom calls are in pink. And you have 1 hour sizes, and you have these half hour sizes, which you can put at the beginning or the end of the hour. And now I have all of my pre-scheduled commitments placed onto my weekly calendar. And so now I can see where I have space in my week to work on my projects. So that brings us to step number 2. Step number 2 is basically looking at my projects and bringing them down into my calendar in a way that is aligned with my priorities, what I want to work on this week, where I see I have space to do 3 or 4 hours of deep work, where I think I need to do my admin, my emails, my smaller tasks, and that will all fit onto my calendar during step number 2. So actually the second step is to now look at your projects that you want to work on this week, right? So you have your project section back here, right? So you have projects back here. We'll go into how that looks. Every project has a card like this. So just the name of the project. You don't have to get into details. You're just wanting to put it out there visually so you can see what you need to be accomplishing and what order, what priority. And then once you've got all your projects written out, what you're going to do is take the 5 or 6 projects that you really want to prioritize this week and put them into this doing section, right? And we'll look at how that works. Okay, so the first step is to put those 5 or 6 priority projects into the doing grid. Here you can see I've got project 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I've put those into my grid, and I've got some others, let's say, that I'm working on other projects, but those are not really high priority for this week, so I've left them out of the grid. The next step is to define the next up to 3 tasks that each project requires you to do this week, or that are required for each project. So you can choose whatever color you want for those tasks. It doesn't really matter, as long as it's clear that this is a task that belongs to a certain project. Okay, now you can see I've got my projects and my tasks for each project, and projects are labeled by letter A, B, C, D, E, F. That's just to keep track. We'll show how that works in the actual calendar. When I move these tasks into my calendar to make sure that I've assigned time to work on each of those tasks. Okay, and now we've arrived at a bonus optional feature of the Clarity board, which I call the time bank. I really like it because it really sets my limits, like a budget for my time, and I'll walk you through kind of how it works. So you have basically however many of these small chips that represent 1 hour of your work week. All right, so how many hours can you actually sit and work, including, let's say, lunch breaks or, anything within your work hour. For me, it's 40 hours. Some people might be 50, 60, 30, whatever it is. You put all of those chips in one pile in your time bank, and then you're basically allocating those 40 hours or however many hours into the projects, into the phone calls, meetings, lunch breaks, everything that you have, as if you're budgeting your time, right? So you cannot go beyond your budget. That's what I like about it, is it actually keeps me disciplined to staying within the 40 hours of work that I have, and really making the best use of that time. So I'll show you how it works. The first step is to look at your current schedule. You've already put in your meetings, you've already put in your Zoom calls, and now those hours are taken. You have to take them out of your time budget and assign them to those areas. So that's the first step. Okay, so now I've allocated to existing commitments my 1 hour time slots according to the category. So I have a category for meetings. This week I have 4 hours of meetings. I've put those into the meeting category. I have 7 hours of calls or Zoom calls. I'm taking a 1 hour lunch break every day, so I've got 5 hours taken up for that. And there's 3 hours this week where I won't be able to work. I have to do an errand in town. So that's kind of the X category, right? So let's say now I know it's actually 45 hours, including lunch breaks. Out of those 45 hours that I'm working, I already see that I've got some time slots that are already taken. I can't use those for my projects now. So now I know basically what I have left is what I can use to making progress on my projects, and that's the next step here. Okay, so now I can see, I know how many hours I have available to work on my projects. The next thing I want to do is prioritize. What are the big priorities this week for my projects? And I have numbers for that. So let's say project 1 is first priority. I really want to make progress on project 1. My next one is project 4. It doesn't have to be in any order. It doesn't really matter. I just think, okay, this week these are my five priorities in that order. That'll help me kind of allocate my time. So now the next step is, okay, project 1, first priority. How much time do I think I'm going to take for task number 1 on that one? Let's say it's 3 hours. So I'll put my 3 hours of time chips above that task, just like this. Okay, now I see, 3 hours. I need to allocate 3 hours into my calendar in order to accomplish that task. Now obviously, it's not going to be exact. My estimate will be off a little bit, but it's just to give me a good idea of how do I align my calendar with my projects and with my priorities. Now I've filled in all of my time chips into my projects, and a couple things to notice. I don't have time for all of my projects this week. Okay, I can't do project 5 and I can't do project 6 basically. I've called them project B and project F here. They're low priority, and it just looks like this week I'm probably not going to have time to get to them, and it's good for me to know that. Okay, so now the next step is really to bring all this information and find time for my projects according to this plan in my calendar. I know that there's enough 1 hour slots in my calendar now because I've done my time budget, and so now it's just finding time in my week to make this happen. Okay, so now I'm going to start populating my calendar with my tasks, with my projects. So I'll start with task number 1 of my high priority project. I see it'll take me 3 hours, that's my estimate. So I got to find 3 hours where I can work on that. And usually the way I work, I like doing 3 hours in a row. I don't like splitting up tasks if I can help it. So I'll look on my calendar, and because it's high priority, I want to try to do it in the beginning of the week. So I see I've got 2 hours here, and then I've got a third hour. I've got a Zoom call in between, but that gives me 3 hours. So I'm going to put my first task, my high priority task, at the beginning of the week here, and I will label that so it will look pretty clear. Task 1, and I know the project number or the project letter, so I will take my project letter and I will put it here so I can label it. Okay, a couple more tips about the transfer of your projects down into your calendar. Now, one thing that I like to do is I move the time blocks, the 1 hour timepieces, I move them off to the side once I've put that task into my calendar. That way it just shows me visually, okay, I've accounted for that task, it's in my calendar now. I move it from the top, and then I just put it off to the side, and then I can just see, okay, this has already been added. I don't need to find room for it anymore in my calendar. Another important detail here about the projects in your calendar is you have the letters you can put for each project, kind of like the code for that project, A, B, C, D, E, F. That can go in your calendar just so you know, okay, I'm working on these different projects. I see the project letter next to the 1 hour slot, and I can basically visually see, okay, I'm working on 4 projects this week. I see them on my calendar, and I can kind of just get a gauge on the diversity of my work, and that I'm not putting all my effort into one project and at the expense of others. So that's another kind of detail feature that can help you stay on top of your tasks. So this is a full calendar. I know exactly every hour what I'm supposed to be doing, what project I'm working on, and it all adds up to my total number of hours that I have available, and it all has a space in my calendar. So a couple notes. Number 1 is the admin, which is, in my case, I like to put 1 hour of admin work at the beginning of my day. That can be emails, checking in with colleagues, anything that involves kind of smaller tasks. So I like to give myself at least an hour a day to do that, usually at the beginning. It can be at the end, it can move it around. And then here in this case I've put in an example, but I'll have an admin section on my Clarity board, and any kind of small tasks that don't fit into a project, that don't take a lot of effort, just remember to email someone, remember to call someone, remember to check this to-do list item off of my list. I will write all of those to-dos here as they come in. I'll add another one, these small kind of admin cards, and that'll just remind me when I'm doing my admin work to remember to do those tasks. Now, this is the basic structure for the week. Every week I will do this over, start over this whole process. And now there's a few more sort of add-ons to the calendar that we can discuss now as well. I also like to have a section for deadlines that I just know, okay, I have to do these things by a certain time. It may not be the same week that I'm planning, but it can be in the same month or in the future. I just put a long tab for the name of the project that's due or the task that's due, and then a small square for the actual date that it's due. Another important part of the Clarity Board is the goals section, right? We all want to set goals. We all want to meet our goals, but if we don't really keep track of them, at least for myself, and then it's really hard to make progress on those goals and kind of figure out where I need to be prioritizing my effort and time. So that's why I have a goal section. One thing that I like to do is actually add a little star next to each goal to reflect the progress on that goal. If it's 3 stars, that means I've met my goal. I can celebrate. I can go take a break maybe for 10 minutes. Or I can just move it into my done section if I want to keep track of things that I've accomplished maybe through the year. These are usually big goals, right? These are not kind of like 3-day goals. This would be a goal that you set for your quarter, for your year, things that require many different steps to reach them. For me as a researcher, it's going to be publishing a paper. That would be one goal. Or maybe even this year I want to publish 4 papers, and that's my yearly annual goal. And then I can keep track of the progress just really simply 1 star, 2 stars, or 3 stars. And yeah, hopefully that will help motivate you to continue working and drudging through all your hours of your week with purpose and with vision. The last thing I didn't mention about the time bank is it might be useful to actually design in a certain cushion into your week so that you don't completely fill out every hour of your schedule. Things always change. What I've done here is I've added a star. I don't know if you can even see that. Yeah. What I've done here is I've added a star as a category. That can be kind of like a cushion. So let's say I want to put in next week, I'm going to make sure that I have 4 hours in that week where I haven't planned anything. I just have available for when things change. If something comes up, then I've got 4 hours of cushion in my week. So that's just another tip for scheduling. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video and giving this a try. I really appreciate your feedback, any thoughts, comments, questions. Just reach out to me. Because it's an early stage product, I love to hear what you're experiencing, if it works for you, what doesn't work. Super excited to hear from you. So please reach out and let me know. Thanks. One of them is just deadlines, right? So if I have a deadline, I know I have to submit a proposal by Wednesday. What I'll do is I'll just add, in this case I like purple is my goal or deadline color, so I'll just add it at the beginning of that day. just to remind myself, hey, I've got a deadline today, so I need to make sure that I'm on top of that deadline. And then if there's any other kind of day-based activities, for example, I want to go for a run in the morning, I can put my running icon or my workout icon in those space. I do have icons for meetings, for phone calls. It's a little redundant because your color is also communicating that to you. But if you want to make sure that you know, okay, this is a physical meeting, I need to be there at that time, then I can add that icon as well. But you'll see as start using the system which icons are most useful for you. So that's basically the structure. Now the next step will be what happens when something needs to change, right? So this happens to me a lot. I'm sure it happens to you. You have a perfect plan, everything's ready to go, and then a colleague calls and says, "Hey, did you see this really urgent proposal? It's due in 2 days. I think we should apply." And now you've got to restructure your plan a little bit. So in that case, what I normally do is I look at my calendar. If I have to fit in an hour of work somewhere, then I can look at my priorities. I can decide, okay, today I can take an hour from here. Maybe if it's blank, if it's a continuation of an existing project, I can write the project name here. And remember that there's an hour I was going to work on this project, which I'm not working on right now, but I can put it sort of off to the side. I also have a waiting area. I can put it there. But it'll just show me that I've taken 1 hour away from what I was planning, and then I can reschedule that later if I need to. Obviously, with any assignment that I give myself and I think it's going to take a certain amount of time, it's not always exactly that amount of time, right? So if I need another hour to work on a task, same thing. I can take an hour from somewhere else, usually in the same day, or continuing down. I can take an hour away from somewhere, put it to the side. I can move tasks up or down, or I can take them completely out and just say, hey, I need 3 more hours for this task. And then I know, okay, I've taken that whole task out. It's all here. I've got a 3-hour task I didn't get to. Maybe I want to reprioritize, or just remind myself for next week that I should be working on that. So that's the nice thing about a magnetic system, is it's really flexible, it's really forgiving. If you need to change something, there's no problem. And you're always aware of what it is you changed and what it is that you're needing to get back to later, right? So we do have the other sections of the Clarity Board, which is the waiting area, the areas that you've accomplished, the done section, right? Obviously, when you're done with something, you don't have to take all of your tasks off of here and put them in done, but some of the smaller admin tasks might be helpful, and that can always go there. And then you have parking lot. That's more for projects that you're parking, that you're not working on right now. So that's the system. I'd love your feedback. I'd love you to try this out. Again, this is totally printable, totally DIY. You can do it at home, or you can have a printer print it and laminate it for you. That's what I recommend. And it really gives you clarity on what you're doing every week, and how to think how to maximize the use of your time. Thanks for watching.